Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are ready to resume the hearings for today, day 23. Thanks so much.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Hassim.
Morning, Chair. Chair General Khumalo is ready to continue his evidence today.
Thank you. I'm not sure, after such a longish break, whether I should again have the General take the oath or whether we should just remind him that he's still under his oath. I'm sure he has not forgotten. Good morning, General.
Good morning, Commissioners.
General, you are still under your oath.
Yes, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Where were we?
One thing, Ms. Hassim, like I did when we started with the General, besides the statement, what do you suggest? Which volume of the annexures do you suggest we should have in front of us immediately?
For this morning, Chair, I would ask that you have two files, the statement file and the file with annexures. It's just marked annexures.
Annexures. The one we got today, early this morning. The ones. That's the statement. Oh,
It's marked annexures, and it has a batch of annexures that are numbered SDK1 all the way through to about 40 something.
Got it. I've got it. I've got both.
You've got both. Thank you, Chair. You will need at a certain point the additional folder that you were provided, but I will alert you when we get there.
You'll indicate when.
Thank you, General Khumalo. Before we were rudely interrupted, we were about halfway through almost of your written statement. We'd stopped just as you had begun dealing with WhatsApp conversations that were retrieved from Mr. Matlala's phone. That evidence has now been covered by Witness X, so we need not cover that ground again. So can I ask you then to turn to page 39 of your statement? And the heading of this section is the events leading to the Gauteng counterintelligence operation and further evidence of infiltration of the criminal justice system. Is that right?
Yeah.
You've got that. So when I look at paragraphs 89 to 92, it seems to me that it's quite pivotal, this event that you begin to speak about here, which is the assassination in Vereniging. It seems to be a pivotal moment in the investigation of criminal syndicates. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree, Commissioners.
And can you explain to the Commission why that is?
Thank you, Commissioners. As I explained during my first part of my testimony, that my involvement in this operation was and is still twofold. I am the Divisional Commissioner of Crime Intelligence, which is responsible for the Gauteng counterintelligence ops or operation. And I am also the project leader of the political killings task team that played a role in the Gauteng counterintelligence operation. The main part of my testimony under this part or today will be through my role as the Divisional Commissioner of Crime Intelligence, as I'll be talking mostly on the on these Gauteng counterintelligence operations. This is the operation that served as a catalyst of the whole discussion of my testimony, as evidence has been laid before, that it was as a result of a hit or the murder of Mr. Armand Swart, who was an employee of a Q-Tech company in Vereeniging. According to our investigation, that was a mistaken identity. He was not the intended target, but that is where the whole investigation started, the whole investigation that led to the registration of a counterintelligence project under Gauteng Province of Office of Crime Intelligence. It is this investigation that led then to the arrest of Mr. Molefe later on, after the initial arrest of the hitmen that were arrested hours before the murder of Mr. Swart. Later on, as the investigation was...
You mean hours after? You said hours before.
Hours after the murder of Mr. Swart, the hitmen were arrested and the firearms were confiscated that were suspectedly by then used in the commission of that crime. The further investigation then, by then, this was just a Gauteng organized crime investigation when the hitmen were arrested. Then as then the investigation progressed, that is when then later on Mr. Molefe as well as Mr. Madlanga on other related cases. But maybe if I may first confirm that it is Mr. Molefe who was then charged with the killing of Mr. Armand Swart. But I'm introducing Mr. Madlanga because that is when then the cartel started to shape up when we were doing then further investigations.
So is it correct, if I understand your statement, written statement correctly, it's this investigation and your involvement in this investigation that led you to expose and to basically have sight into infiltration by criminals of the criminal justice system, is that right?
That is very correct, because that started to come up when then we were doing what we normally call in an organized crime investigation, going up the ladder, taking the investigation further. So at the initial stage of the investigation, the role of the involvement of criminal justice system was not clearly visible, other than the fact that one of the hitmen was by then a serving member, a warrant officer in the South African Police Service.
So that you were aware of at the time of the arrest of that officer, but as your investigation went on, more members of the SAPS became exposed. Is that what you're saying?
That is very correct. We have cases, the organized hits or the contract killings that we have investigated and we are still investigating as part of political killings task team. We have picked up that the hit coordinators as well as hit orderers, they have adopted this new way of recruiting the serving members of SAPS to serve as hitmen. So the arrest of a warrant officer Tau as one of the hitmen did not come as a surprise to us with that experience.
So you said a new way of recruiting. What is that? What do you mean by a new way of recruiting members?
So maybe if I can, without wasting much time of the commission, if I can take the commission back to my first parts of my testimony, I had indicated that the recruitment by the organized groups in the form of syndicates or cartel is very targeted. So they will want to have more of their members that have experience or are still serving within the criminal justice system. That includes SAPS.
Okay. Can we turn then to your involvement and when you became involved in the Vereniging matter? And can we begin with the letter from the prosecutor? And I believe that was on the 5th of August, 2024, that the prosecutor, this seems to be when you started to get involved. Before you start, can you turn to page 159 of your annexures bundle? And that's SDK 15. SDK 15, page 159.
Yes, I'm there.
And can you just tell the Commission what this letter is and what it's about?
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Maybe with your permission, Commissioners, before I get to the annexure as directed by the Senior Counsel, it will be crucial that I introduce another subject of our further discussion that is contained in paragraph 91 of my statement, introducing another parallel investigation that came as an instruction from the National Commissioner for the same team that we were putting together, also to investigate that case involving the kidnapping of a prominent businessman, Jerry Boshucha. So as the project or this Gauteng counter-intelligence operation was moving on, yes, it started with Aman Swart case, but then it was soon after that joined by this investigation of this kidnapping case. I'm introducing it because I'll be talking more about it as I move on with my testimony. But then going back to the annexure on page 59, that is dated the 5th of August, 2024.
Just for purposes of the transcript, 159. You said 59.
Excuse me, Commissioner, page 159.
Thank you.
The annexure is about the letter that is dated the 5th of August 2024. That was written by the senior state prosecutor who was working together with the investigation team on this case of Aman Swart. That letter was addressed to the immediate commander or supervisor of the investigating officers, which is Brigadier Khopane. It was also addressed to the Deputy Provincial Commissioner, Gauteng, which is General Mbuso Khumalo, also addressed to the Provincial Commissioner Gauteng, which is Lieutenant General Mtombeni, and also addressed to the Deputy National Commissioner of Police at national level, Lieutenant General Sbiya, and the National Commissioner of Police, General Masimola. The letter was with regard to the concerns.
Just to pause for a moment there, General. So it was not addressed to you, this letter?
No, it was not addressed to me.
Can I just make a correction on your statement at paragraph 93, Chair? Where it says on 5 August 2024, Senior Prosecutor Ronel Kutsia addressed a letter to me and Brigadier Khopane as the provincial head. That was actually to General Mbuso Khumalo.
Indeed, Commissioners, that is correct. I'm not sure whether it's an omission or it's a typo or it's a mistaken identity.
Or a ballistics typo.
We have that as Kumalos, that we are confused sometimes, and the statement it's written, or it reads like the letter was addressed to me, followed by Brigadier Khopane, whereas the Khumalo, that is one of the addressees, is Major General Mbuso Khumalo, who is the Deputy Provincial Commissioner, Gauteng Crime Detection.
Thank you. So what was the purpose of this letter?
The purpose of the letter was for the Senior State Prosecutor to share, firstly, to share with the management of South African Police at all levels regarding the risks that the investigating officers were facing in terms of their safety as a result of this case that they were investigating and the Senior State Prosecutor was prosecuting. So the letter is listing the reasons that made the Senior State Prosecutor to believe that the lives of the investigating officers were at risk. So it was recommending or requesting an agent assistance by powers that be at provincial as well as national level to ensure that proper measures are put in place to protect both the investigation as well as the investigating officers.
Thank you. Perhaps you could read paragraph 16 of the prosecutor's letter, bearing in mind that it refers to witness A and B.
Reading
Paragraph 16, yes.
Reading paragraph 16 on record, it reads, you are requested to urgently arrange for the safeguarding of especially witness A and B. There is a real danger that their lives are in extreme danger, and these organized criminals will do everything in their ability to try and destroy evidence against them and or to seriously derail the trial. It has just now become so much easier with Tau, referring to the former warrant officer, who was part of the arrested hitmen, having unlimited access to technology and his syndicate friends and family.
And to be clear for the record, witness A and B that you referred to are the two witnesses who have given evidence in this commission.
That is correct. During my testimony, commissioners, I will be referring to them either as investigating officers or as witness A and B.
Thank you. So after this letter is sent by the prosecutor, at paragraph 97, you say that on 8 August, Colonel Ntuli was instructed to conduct a threat and risk assessment. Can you first begin by explaining who Colonel Ntuli is and who issued that instruction?
Thank you, Commissioners. The normal standard operational procedure within our crime intelligence environment, because the threat and risk assessment are one of our responsibilities. If we can refer back to the addresses where the letter was sent to, there is no reflection of anyone who is within crime intelligence. So the requester will send the letter to the immediate commander of the member or the members involved, as well as the provincial and national top management. So in this case, after the letter was received by the Provincial Commissioner Gauteng, he then channeled it to the provincial head of crime intelligence in Gauteng province, which is Major General Likalakala, who then assigned that investigation of this threat and risk to a Colonel Ntuli, who is the commander of counterintelligence investigations within Gauteng province, who was then instructed by not one of the addresses, but by the Major General Likalakala, the provincial head of crime intelligence, to conduct that investigation.
What does that investigation involve?
Without maybe exposing the whole methodology, which is mostly of covert nature, I will say it looks at the individual as well as the all types of security around an individual or a subject of investigation, starting from where the individual lives to where the individual works and to the lifestyle itself, as well as all other people that are interacting with the subject of investigation. It's a process where after all those are identified and the information collected, there will be a thorough analysis that will be checking the facts collected against the threats and vulnerabilities as identified then from the requester, to determine the likelihood of that, because by that time it is looked at as a potential risk. That analysis will be done then to determine the likelihood or the unlikelihood of that potential risk then to materialize. That is what, in short, in brief, the process is all about.
Thank you, General. And so what was the finding of this particular investigation, threat and risk assessment?
The finding of this whole investigation on the threat and risk assessment against the investigators on this case was found to be, the risk level was found to be high, which is the highest level of risk assessment.
And if I can just ask you to turn to page 162 of the annexures bundle. So that's SDK 16. 162. Is this the affidavit by the colonel who did the TRA?
That is correct, Commissioners. It happened that during a bail application of one of the accused, the need came for the threat and risk assessment that was done to be used or included then in the state case. But then because the threat and risk assessment report itself, it's a classified document with all the details that would not want it to be made public, then the decision was taken that the Colonel Ntuli, who was doing the physical threat and risk assessment, submits the statement that confirms without details the threat and risk assessment that he conducted.
So when did he conclude his TRA? When was it signed?
The threat and risk assessment itself was concluded during August, and it was signed off on the 16th of August.
So the fact that this affidavit was signed on the 17th of May 2025 is not a reflection of when the TRA was conducted, but because this was for the purposes of the bail application, it was at a later date.
Yes, Commissioners, that's what I was explaining, that the affidavit was done way after the threat and risk assessment was concluded. It was just meant for bail opposition.
Thanks. So, General, the next two paragraphs summarize what witnesses A and B were to come and provide evidence onto this commission, and we don't need to traverse that. It's there in your statement, and the witnesses have now testified. Can we please go to paragraph 101 of your statement, because this is where you say, this is where you became involved. After the threat and risk assessment was concluded, you were approached for assistance. Can you explain that, please? Who approached you and when?
Thank you, Commissioners. As it's also part of our standard operational procedures, the provincial head will receive the final, according to their level, the final threat and risk assessment report before signing it off, and then the provincial head will go through the threat and risk assessment, including the recommendations that are included, and then if it happens that the provincial head is of the opinion that that particular threat and risk assessment need to be escalated at national level for their views and also for their concurrence, depending. That happens mainly with the high profile threat and risk assessment and also those that are rating the risk at the highest level. So that is what happened in this case. My office was approached by the provincial head of crime intelligence in Gauteng with a view of briefing me and presenting this draft threat and risk assessment for my concurrence and my input.
And what type of input would you have provided?
After a thorough briefing and also going through the draft threat and risk assessment, there were lots of red flags that pointed towards being a very serious, different threat and risk assessment. In the threat and risk assessment, even from the request by the senior state prosecutor, there were reference made to the syndicate, knowing that the syndicate, to sustain its activities, it needs the strong support of the criminal justice system, which is then also inclusive of South African Police Service. So, looking at the request and looking at the draft report, then my office then was not comfortable with the recommendations that were included in that TRA. Hence, then the inputs that had to be included involves the registration of a counterintelligence investigation project.
Sorry to interrupt you, General. You described the TRA, or perhaps more the situation than the TRA, as open quote, different, close quote. What do you mean by that?
Thank you, Commissioner. The reference to different is most of the threat and risk assessment requests and investigations that will do, it will be mainly where the potential enemy, if I may put it in a layman's language, of that particular subject of investigation, it's someone that will have a plan to neutralize as soon as possible. So the use of unusual or different refers to the emphasis that was put from the request to the TRA itself that was talking to a syndicate. Now, a syndicate meant that we need to identify all other potential risk areas other than to concentrate on, for an example, other than to concentrate on the name that was mentioned in the request of a warrant officer, Dow. So we had to take it further and define the syndicate. So as then we are able, now, because the request and the TRA were making reference to a warrant officer Dow and the hit squad or hit men that were neutralized by then, it was going to be looked at as a usual TRA. But because of the emphasis and evidence of the involvement of a syndicate that has not yet been identified, that's why then we looked at it differently and we use it different as a weight.
And that was your call?
That was my call.
And so what did you recommend?
Then, as I've reflected, that I recommended that we register a counterintelligence investigation, which was going to focus mainly on the identification of the whole syndicate, because now to have countermeasures or protective measures that are directed towards Dow and those that are arrested already was not going to be effective according to register the counterintelligence investigation to identify more of those that might be involved in the syndicate. In order to protect as I reflected during my initial testimony, that a counterintelligence investigation is there to protect the operations of the South African Police Service. Now, the operations, they include both the operators or the operator as well as the activities. In this case, the investigation itself, that it becomes a success.
So was it through those investigations that you were able to identify Mr. Molefe as a suspect?
That is very correct. It was through the counterintelligence investigation. That was now, maybe before I get straight to the answer of the question by the senior counsel, let me explain the second most important recommendation that I had included in the initial draft TRA presented to me by the provincial head of crime intelligence, Gauteng. We also recommended that after the counterintelligence investigation is registered, because we registered it as a project, after it has been registered, it had to be meshed with the Gauteng organized crime investigation. That was as a result of that, the TRA was as a result of, because it was going to feed the investigation itself. That was the birth of now what we have been referring to in this commission as Gauteng Organized Crime Investigation, GCI Ops, which is the combination of both counterintelligence investigations and organized crime investigation of Gauteng.
Thank you, General. I'm sorry to interrupt your evidence, but Chair, it's come to my attention that some of the annexures and contents of the witness's statement is being projected in public. I wasn't aware because it doesn't come up on the screens in front of me at all. But as a result, information that should not be public is being made public. And may I ask that there's no projection unless I request it?
May we take an adjournment, a brief adjournment, and I would like for us to meet the people who do the projection outside immediately, please.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you,
Let's
Chair.
adjourn.